History is important. We as human beings make it a point to leave ourselves reminders of moments that happened long ago, so that we can either revel in our achievement or learn from our stupid mistakes. And with NFL stadiums, if they aren't still standing, some of them were indeed mess-ups, or eventually turned into them. Today we're going to learn about our gridiron cathedrals of the past, and in some cases, the present. What happened to these former NFL stadiums is coming up right after this. Bros, the math doesn't lie. Women absolutely prefer a man who takes care of his junk. It isn't just about the concept of personal grooming. It's about having the right tools to get the job done. That's where Manscaped comes in. If you're using old rusty plug-in clippers, do yourself a favor and throw that shit away. Cause you ain't getting Manscaped, you're getting Manscraped. Let me show you the proper way. Let's look at this fine piece of engineering. Do you see a cord? No. Their long-lasting battery allows you to take these waterproof clippers in the damn shower with you. That's the move right there. No cleanup. Oh, you worried about these blades rusting? Guess what, Nancy boy? They are made out of ceramic and they don't rust. And when they eventually get dull, replacing them is damn easy. You can even get replacement blades shipped to you automatically with Manscaped subscription options, where you can not only get all your blades replaced, but all your products like crop cleanser body soap, which is my favorite, sent right to your house without you getting up, lazy ass. So after this video, it's time to whack those weeds down and flex on yourself hard. Go to the link below, use my code POINT20 and get 20% off and free shipping. Oh, did I mention the Perfect Package 2.0 comes with all this other kick-ass stuff? Again, use the code POINT20 and we'll throw in the Shed travel bag and ship it to you for free. Come on, it's time to live on the top flight of dick clippers. Manscaped.com. Once the site of both the NFL and the MLB, SDCCU, formerly known as Jack Murphy Stadium or Qualcomm, is now solely used for San Diego State football. The Chargers left in 2016 to play in a soccer stadium in LA. SDCCU has hosted 3 Super Bowls and has been the target of several demolition proposals. Host to the Cardinals for 17 years, Sun Devil Stadium continued as the venue for Arizona State football in 2005 when the Cards moved to State Farm Stadium. The stadium somehow hosted Super Bowl 30. The site of where Eagles booed Santa Claus, Franklin Field is the oldest active site where college football is still played. Host of the UPenn Quakers and the annual Penn Relays, Franklin served as the home of the Eagles for 12 years. A monument built to personify hate for Stan Kroenke, the dome was built in 1995 and abandoned by the NFL 20 short years later. Since then, it has served as a concert, basketball, and occasional college football venue. However, things are looking up as the XFL St. Louis Battlehawks will play there next year. The world's first indoor sports arena, the Astrodome has found itself abandoned for the last 11 years. A great place for football, but meh for baseball. The dome was closed in 2008 after code violations and was partially demolished in 2013. It is now a national landmark and cannot be destroyed. An active NFL site for 35 years, RFK received new life as a baseball and soccer stadium, however has sat abandoned since 2018. With a fate as shaky as the old sideline bleachers, it was decided in 2019 that RFK would be demolished. One of the oddest stadium stories, Balboa Stadium was an NFL venue for 5 years in which an upper deck was added to increase the capacity. However, once the Chargers left, the entire stadium was demolished and rebuilt, and it now serves as a high school and community college field. The longtime host of the Bears and Chicago Cardinals, Soldier Field was dismantled in 2001 with only the exterior buildings preserved while a modern stadium was built inside of it. Because of the renovation, the building was delisted as a historic landmark in 2006 and can be demolished, like the goalposts likely were last winter. A stadium once converted to fit the needs of the indecisive Rams. Anaheim Stadium was originally baseball only until 1980 when it was completely enclosed. After the Rams returned to St. Louis, the park was returned to a baseball only venue in 1997. The following 5 stadiums were all built at relatively the same time, looked similar, and were demolished and replaced with new stadiums nearly simultaneously. One of the first specifically designed dual-use stadiums, Shea was the site where O.J. Simpson murdered the single-season rushing record in 1973. It was also the site of the famous 1968 AFL Championship game. The Jets moved to the Meadowlands in 1983, and the stadium was demolished in 2008 and replaced with Citi Field. A great site for climate-controlled football, but not so much for baseball, well, if you were the road team. The Metrodome utilized a roof that was held up via air pressure. It was demolished in 2013 and is now the site of US Bank Stadium. One of the few triple-use stadiums, as the Sonics also played here, the Kingdome enjoyed a long history of NFL football. In 1994, ceiling tiles began falling and the Kingdome was closed as 3 NFL games were played in Husky Stadium. The dome was demolished 6 years later and replaced with CenturyLink Field. Originally built as a baseball-only venue, Mile High is more associated with football and John Elway's good luck. Demolished in 2002 to make way for what is now known as Empowerment Field, the former site is marked by a miniature version of Mile High designed to make people think it was simply placed in a giant dryer. The original Factory of Sadness, Municipal Stadium was a longtime NFL venue and the site of the Drive and the Dog Pound. After the team left in 1995, the stadium was demolished and a new Factory of Sadness was constructed on the exact same site. Though it is known as the house that Ruth built, Yankee Stadium 1 hosted the football Giants for 17 seasons and was the site of the greatest game ever played, the 1958 NFL Championship. Demolished in 2008, the site is now called Heritage Park, a baseball diamond with a nearby football field. A longtime baseball venue for the St. Louis Cardinals, it also served the NFL for the St. Louis Cardinals. Once Sportsman's Park was replaced by Busch Stadium in 1966, the park was demolished. It is now the site of the Herbert Hoover Boys and Girls Club and has an athletic field. A sign marks the former park site. After the Colts left in 1983, Memorial Stadium was baseball only until the Ravens arrived in 1996 and played 1 year in the aging venue. Memorial also hosted CFL games in the 90s. When the Ravens left for at&t, the stadium was demolished and is now the site of an assisted living facility with the former field outlined as a park. A famous Negro League and MLB venue, Municipal Stadium hosted the Chiefs for 8 years until 1971, when they moved to Arrowhead. It was the site of the longest NFL game ever played, a double OT playoff game. The stadium sat abandoned for 2 years until it was demolished in 1975 and is now the site of a neighborhood and the Negro League's baseball museum. The 20-year home of the Vikings and often considered a substandard venue for football, the Met was left abandoned in 1981 after the Vikes moved into the Metrodome. The site rotted for 10 years, then was demolished and replaced with the Mall of America, the USA's largest mall. A red chair inside the mall's amusement park marks Harmon Killebrew's longest home run, as does a plaque marking home plate. Originally designed for baseball only, the first pro football team to play here was actually the Oakland Raiders in 1961. The stadium was enclosed in 1970, then enjoyed a history of success and odd playing conditions. Once Levi's was built, Candlestick was demolished in 2014, and it is now an abandoned lot. Nicknamed the Rock Pile, this dual-use stadium served both the NFL and minor league baseball. War Memorial hosted 2 AFL championship games, 1964 and 1966 respectively. The Bills won in '66. After the NFL-AFL merger, the stadium was deemed unfit for the NFL and Ralph Wilson was built. Today, the site is called John B. Wiley Amateur Athletic Pavilion and serves as a high school football field. Parts of the old stadium still stand. Site of the 1940 NFL Championship game where the Bears won 73-0. Griffith Stadium also housed Negro League and MLB teams. My friend Carl, who I met at a Nats game, told me that the fence was at an unusual angle because the neighborhood owners refused to sell to the team during construction. After its closing in 1961, the park was demolished, and today the Howard University Hospital stands on its grounds. Home plate is marked in a hallway inside the hospital. Despite hosting 2 Super Bowls, the Georgia Dome had troubles from the beginning, which ultimately contributed to its very short time as a stadium, only 25 years. The Dome had trouble with its roof and had to be renovated after 10 years. In 2016, it was replaced with nearby Mercedes-Benz Arena, then it was demolished and turned into a tailgating area. The original home of the Dolphins, the Orange Bowl served the NFL for 20 years. The stadium used to have an actual dolphin tank in the 60s until Snowflake was kidnapped by Ray Finkel. After nearly 50 years of use, the stadium was demolished to make room for the publicly funded disaster that is Marlins Park. Nicknamed the Big Sombrero, Tampa Stadium also hosted 2 Super Bowls. Though the stadium provided good sight lines, it was constructed out of concrete and exposed its fans to unbearable heat. Demolished in 1999, Raymond James was built adjacent to the old site. You can see the outline of Tampa Stadium and the field next to the new venue. The site of the Tuck Rule game, Foxborough's destruction signaled the beginning of the Patriots' dominance. Originally slated for demolition following the 2001 season, the refs decided to prolong its use after making up a rule nobody had ever heard of. Gillette Stadium was built with the old grounds being repurposed into a shopping mall where Pats fans can buy Tom Brady's bathwater. Opened in 1976, Giant Stadium hosted over 364 NFL games. In 1984, the New York Jets became roommates with the Giants. Also known as the Meadowlands, it became the first major stadium in New Jersey. An urban legend stating that Jimmy Hoffa was buried in the end zone was completely debunked when the stadium was demolished in 2010, as it is now the parking lot for the nearby MetLife Stadium, the NFL's newest factory of sadness. It seems like the NFL used to hand out Super Bowls to any facility, as this one hosted 3, all in a 5-year period, because one got canceled at the Superdome. The annual host of the Sugar Bowl, Tulane Stadium, hosted the Saints for 7 years until the aforementioned Superdome was built. It was demolished in 1999 and the area sat empty until the new Yeoman Stadium was built in 2013. Built as a lure to snag an NFL team, it definitely worked as the stadium never sat empty. Home of the Colts for 23 years, the arena featured a roof similar to that of the Metrodome. When it was slated for destruction, they simply deflated the roof and blew the place up, and it is now the Indiana Convention Center across the street from Lucas Oil Arena. A cautionary tale of everything that can go wrong with the life cycle of a stadium. The Pontiac Silverdome is a microcosm of both Detroit and the Lions themselves. The site of Barry Sanders' electric moves and Super Bowl 16, the Dome Stadium featured a Teflon-coated fiberglass roof. Eventually, the Lions moved out in 2001 and the stadium fell into a bizarre abandonment. After sitting empty and many failed proposals, the stadium reopened in 2010. 3 years later, the roof collapsed, turning the venue into a nightmarish corpse. Finally, the stadium was demolished in 2017. Well, not exactly. After a second attempt, the stubborn eyesore fell. And after 2 years of demolition, it's now a pile of dirt. And now for our final former NFL stadium. The stadium with a hole in the roof so that God could watch the Cowboys lose. Texas Stadium in Irving was the site of NFL games for 38 years. Its unique roof was originally meant to be retractable, however, the engineers discovered the structure couldn't hold that additional weight. After Jerry World was built in 2009, the stadium was slated for demolition, which occurred via implosion on April 11, 2010. The land was then repurposed by the state of Texas, and it has been used as an equipment storage and staging area, but is now mostly a dirt lot. By the looks of it, you'd hardly know this was a site where history once was made. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please do not forget to check out manscaped.com and use my code POINT20 for 20% off your first order and free shipping. And also check out the video I made on the fate of former MLB stadium. I'm 5 Points Vids, and you made it to my next video.